Hi there, and welcome to today's episode where I'm going to work with Dungeon Alchemy, which is currently in beta, to create the Boar's Head, a tavern that you can include in your own game. Dungeon Alchemy was initially conceived and made available by Kickstarter, and so as a backer I now have access to this initial beta release, which I found really fantastic. So it's very intuitive to use. You'll see that there's a menu system on the side. Select the sort of building category you want to be building. In this case, we're working with a tavern, and then it's simply a matter of choosing which type of room you want to create. So here we've created essentially the bar area when people come into the tavern, which is the area that they will end up spending most of their time as paying patrons. Now, I'm also going to have an inn here, but my initial focus will be on building out the bar area. So the application, as I say, is pretty intuitive. It also comes with its own built-in artificial intelligence, which will create the rooms for you, putting a number of different items in the room based on what you're creating. So here you see we already have a couple of tables that came as part of the initial layout. And you can also see you can easily duplicate existing tables, so you don't have a lot of work of having to create all of these yourself. The style I've gone for over here considers most of the things you would expect from a tavern. So there's a bar area to the side. I've actually got a piano in the corner, so it's a place where people can come to also enjoy music. If you have any bards in your team, there may be something they can work with there. Now the area I'm creating now is a corridor which will connect to the bedrooms and other parts of the establishment. But before we do that, there's also an area that we need to add to the bar. After a few drinks, you need to also make sure you're considering a lavatory. So again, very simple. You just select the area like we're doing with the rooms here. You click the little tick symbol and it automatically populates it for you. So very fast to use, really intuitive. I like it a lot. Now with the initial style over here, you'll see it's also kind of mixing the wood and the stone. Later on I'll come back and I'll actually make it either consistent throughout or try and create a story that makes sense why there's different stone areas. So for example, this time I created a wooden wall, whereas previously I was creating stone walls, and I'm not sure how it's determining that. Also the placement of the doors is automatic, so you'll see that sometimes rooms have doors between them, whereas that's not really what people would like when you're staying at an inn. Now because it's an inn and I want to have people staying overnight as well as enjoying the tavern itself, I've also added a kitchen area so the food can be prepared. Now the bit that I'm creating now is actually the residential part for the people who operate the tavern. And on this occasion I've tried one of the other bedrooms from a different area, the castle area, but as you can see it didn't really have the same feel, so I decided to go back to using the tavern layout. However, again, it seems to have now picked up that we're using stone rather than wood for the walls. So again, I'll come back and fix this later. Now the room here I've used here is actually from the mansion section, but I think it has a better feel given that this is the residential area rather than the bit that's rented. And because it's a tavern, I thought it'd be nice to have a separate area where they brew their own beers or ales. Might be a hallmark of using the establishment. And again, consider for the patrons that are actually staying there, where are they going to go to the toilet if they need to. So with that in mind, I actually changed the layout just slightly, made the room reorientated the room and put a toilet at the end of the corridor, so people staying at the tavern had their own toilet there. Now I also like how it does the different setups of the room. So you'll see sometimes there's two beds, sometimes there's bunk beds. There's a real mix, and I think that diversity is just fantastic. Each of the doors, windows and walls give you options based on whether you want to work with stone or whether you want to work with wood. So again, because this section was wood initially, I just decided to stay with wood. And you can also decide whether you want to leave doors open or closed. In your own game, you might decide whether that's a locked door or something that's unlocked with easier access. Now, this particular tavern doesn't have a second story, so I've just deleted the stairs. Sometimes it drops stairs automatically into the corridors. I don't actually know how to add a second level yet, so I'm going to have to investigate that further. But for now, a single level is doing what I need. Moving items around is very simple, so even though the room pre-populates with items, you can delete them, add your own items, move them around the room, and actually resize them. And if your initial layout isn't one that you like, you can simply just press the refresh symbol and it will create new items in the room, which is a fantastic feature. Right, so here you'll see in the corridor there's a whole lot of items that were automatically dropped in there. Some of them don't really make much sense, such as candles on floors. And as I said, I don't want to have stairs going up because at the moment this is just going to be a single story building. The actual navigation is also really easy. It's really just a combination of the 3 mouse clicking options. So your scroll button, if you hold that down and rotate your mouse, you can change the angle that you're viewing. If you hold the right button down, you can move the orientation forward or backwards from yourself, and the right button is to interact with different objects. If you don't push the scroll button down, you can just scroll in and out, and that zooms in and out. So at this point I've decided I'm going to settle on making a stone exterior or stone walls for the parts that are the accommodation part, the residential part of the building. And I guess this kind of makes sense given that this is where the family who operates the tavern live, so they'd want it more secure. And also I imagine there would be lots of fires, or the potential for fires, and stone structures are going to be a lot better off in those situations. I also like that when you think about things in these terms, your buildings can have a history to them. Why does this section have stone, this section brick, this section wood? And it could just be quite organic how it's developed over time. Maybe this was a house on the end here initially, and then the tavern was built around it. Living in England, you find lots of buildings like this that over time have changed their purpose, and there's different parts of the building in different ages. And the same can be for other features. Windows, again, at different periods they might have used different types of windows, or based on a budget or a purpose. Right, so in terms of the residential area, we now have a bedroom, a private toilet, and the tavern area itself. There's the main area for customers coming to drink and have an evening out and eat. And there are 3 sleeping areas, all of them multi-occupancy. At the moment the doors are still connecting them, but we'll fix that up in a little while. We'll replace that broken door for the toilet. Don't want people necessarily looking in or odors necessarily drifting out, so we'll put a more solid door in there. And this here's the front entrance, so maybe a little bit more symmetry. And each item you can see here can be interacted with, so whether it's food or a plate on the table, whether it's the candles or the game in the middle of the table. You have a lot of flexibility in customizing them. So again, on the menu you'll see there's lots of food options over there, from roast chicken to bread, cheeses, right through to swan, depending I guess on who you are entertaining and what their budget is. We can probably get a few more tables in here. Okay, just duplicate them. Oh, I need to look at the placement of that. We need some room for the piano player to sit, so if we move this around a little bit. Get that chair, put over the piano. That's much better. And if we have a couple of cupboards there, some might be for linen for the rooms, others might be for cutlery and crockery for people in the tavern area. Move the bucket out of the way. So I was thinking about what I could put down at the end there in terms of a wine rack or somewhere that we could hold some specialist products that they might sell. Also at this point decided what I'm going to do is just actually close off the kitchen access and make the brewing area part of the main residence, and that's I guess more from a trade secrets point of view. I don't want people having ready access to go and find out how we're brewing our ale. Or maybe you don't trust your customers enough to have ready access to get to the ale room via the kitchen. And then I also thought, well, maybe they ship this out to different regions. You could have a different plot hook that relies on the sending or receiving of shipments. So there's a couple of casks of ale that we've created there. That's looking pretty good now. Now the grid that I've used for this particular map is A3 size. That's international A3 size. Okay, currently this final room is actually accessed via the tavern, and I don't want that. I want to go via the corridor. The reason for having everybody access it via the corridor means that in terms of the storyline, people should have to go essentially buy the room at the bar area, and then they can control access, who's coming and going, so you don't want people just automatically walking in and out. Of course your own story might be different, but that's the logic behind what I've done here. So I want to get a few more beds in here, but also reorientate things because this room doesn't currently have a window, and I need to make room for a window. So a nice surprise was these hammocks. So in addition to the bunk beds, the hammocks are visually attractive, but also give you some additional capacity in the rooms. I'll just get rid of the books on the floor there. And select our window. And because it's in stone, we'll find a stone. Actually, we'll just copy one from another area. There we go, a bit of natural light for the room. Do I need two doors going to the lavatory? Now get 6 people in that one room, 2 people in another room, 3 people in another room. So again, depending on your party size, there's a number of different options there. Alright, let's increase the capacity for guests. A couple of bar stools for patrons who like to chat to the proprietor. And for the proprietor himself, resized by mistake, let's move the bucket over. Let's see if we can sort out that drinks cabinet we were talking about earlier on. Okay. There's a built-in wine rack there. You can also select from different bottles. And as you can see, they actually interact really well with the different items you've already put out. I mean, the gaps inside the unit that you can put bottles or other objects into, it's just really fantastic. The detail here is just amazing. I've noticed that sometimes when you duplicate an object, you kind of still have to resize it. It kind of takes the base and duplicates that, but it's not hard. It's still very, very fast. I have also found that with the beta, it actually chews up my power. So even though my laptop's plugged in, it was chewing up the power, and it crashed twice whilst I was initially using it. So over about 45 minutes of use, it did crash, but I'm sure the guys will fix that. As I said, it's in beta, so I think they'll be taking on board feedback and optimizing it. You can see a whole selection of objects available. Add some extra wood for the fire. Different drinks and potions, musical instruments, books, timers, cages. And given that this is only the beta, this is just a phenomenal amount of options they've already provided. It really is a wonderful layout, wonderful product. And because there's going to be the boar's head, we should have a boar's head, so let's put that right next to the fireplace there. And I thought we'll put down this bearskin rug to sort of signal to customers which half they should stay in, so don't cross the bear's head. Everything behind that is ready for the operators of the establishment. That's a great feature as well. You can look at how the building is in different environments, so morning, midday, afternoon, and then at night. It also quickly shows you where you have your dark parts of your tavern. Just skulk away and meet strangers hiding away in the dark, versus those which might have a little bit more engagement. I noticed at this point that the kitchen was still pretty dark, but it could be later. Maybe the bulk of the cooking has already been done. Let's still we'll put a candle in there so anybody going in there for a late night snack can find their way around. And now we're largely done. So this is the aerial view. And all of these maps I make available on my Patreon, so if you think you or your party would like to visit the Boar's Head, feel free to head over there. Now that this beta is out, I intend to create a lot more content. You'll also see that you can export to different formats over here. Okay, And that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me. Again, please check out Dungeon Alchemy when it becomes available, currently in beta, and we'll see you again soon.